What is up, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global here with another video, and today we are going to be testing out a new series that I want to try to do on my channel. Basically, what this series is going to be is, well, I'm first going to try it out with preseason, and if it is liked and it does well, then I will move it over to the regular season. But after each game, I am going to take players that I personally thought were winners and losers of each game, meaning who did well and who stood out, and who obviously did bad and needs to improve. Make sure you guys let me know what you think about this, because it's all going to depend on you guys and how well the video does. Like I said, I want to do this for the preseason games, and if you guys really like this, and if it gets good views and it does well, and the video, like I said, is liked, then I will carry it on to the regular season. But without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to first start out with the winners I had, and the first one I have, and this is in no specific order, is running back Ralph Webb. I definitely don't think anyone expected Webb to change everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people's point of view, especially in the first preseason game. Webb was an undrafted signing that the Pats kept around this whole offseason. When we look back at training camp, he has been very, very silent, and when I say silent, I mean we didn't even hear his name. So when I heard reporters saying that he was showing signs of a LeGarrette Blount, I was actually really surprised, and that made me really excited to see what he could do in the preseason. Now, the first half of the game was mostly for Gillislee and Hill, and they played a little bit into the second half also, but that was mainly for Webb. Now, Webb saw 14 carries for 46 yards with 3.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns, making both 2-point conversions, one being a receiving and one being a rushing. He ended up playing 35% of the Patriots' offensive snaps with 25 in all, which actually was the most out of all the running backs. The longest run that Webb had last night went for 9 yards. The Pats definitely seemed to use him a lot more when it came to being towards the red zone, and that's also kind of where it seemed like he was doing the best. He has created a great connection with all the other running backs on the team, and since last night, he's actually gained over 6,000 followers on Instagram. So obviously, fans are also loving this guy. If Webb can keep this up, it's really going to raise some questions for him with his future with the Pats. If he keeps playing like this and he gets put on the practice squad, chances are he is going to get grabbed by another team. So honestly, if the Pats want to retain him, his best chance is going to be making the 53-man roster, because if he keeps doing this, someone else is going to grab him. Now, my second winner was linebacker Juan Bentley. Now, this is a guy a lot of people had already written off, but he definitely showed up a few times last night. Bentley's great awareness and flying to make tackles was very clear. He finished the game with 6 tackles, with 2 of them being for a loss. He's a pretty big guy, and if he can keep this up, then he will definitely be a key piece for stopping the run. He didn't get a crazy amount of reps, so I would like to see him get some more, and if he keeps doing well, then I think we can expect just that. The third winner I have is defensive end Trent Harris. Now, for anyone that has been around my channel for a while, you know that I love this guy. I even made a video on him, and last night, he showed just why I love him. Yet again, another undrafted rookie that showed up last night with big plays and versatility. He was lined up at both defensive end and linebacker, but we didn't really see him much at the linebacker position, more defensive end. He also did not get too many reps last night, but when he did, you could tell that he was producing some very nice pass rush ability, and then he put up 1 forced fumble and 1 sack. Defensive end Geno Grissom actually picked up the ball and would have gotten a defensive touchdown, but was brought down at the 1-yard line because cornerback Ray Lewis was too busy celebrating and not blocking. He's another player that was very, very silent during training camp. In fact, also never heard about him. But if he keeps playing like this and making plays like what he did, then you better believe he is going to make this 53-man roster. For my fourth winner, I have wide receiver Devin Lucien. Any real Pats fan knows this guy. They drafted him back in 2016 in the 7th round and was a very promising receiver. Many fans wanted to have him on the roster actually for a couple years. I remember he was doing well in the preseason, in his rookie season, and fans wanted him. And then when Julian Edelman tore his ACL last season, everyone thought that he was going to be a guy that was promoted, but he wasn't. The Pats ended up trying to place him on the practice squad for the 2nd year in a row, but he was picked up by another team and then kept getting passed around before he was re-signed to the Pats right before training camp this offseason. I'm just going to first off by saying the pass game last night was terrible. I mean, there was rarely a play where a receiver actually caught the ball, but Lucien started to pick things up and ultimately became the best receiver on the offense that game. He ended the game with 4 receptions for 71 yards for an average of 17.8 with a lawn of 25. He ended up playing a little of 26% of the Pats' offensive snaps with 19 of them. And because of the Pats' extremely crowded wide receiver core and a lot of these players making a name for themselves, I don't think that he makes the roster, but if he really performs, you never know what Bill might do. I mean, he's been around the organization for a while now, and he seems to always do well for the Pats. So my 5th and final winner for the Patriots versus Redskins, I have running back Jeremy Hill. Hill definitely was the best running back last night, and stats will say the exact same thing. He had 11 attempts with 51 yards, averaging 4.6 yards and 1 touchdown with a lawn of 11. He had 3 less attempts than both Gillislee and Webb and put up more yards and a better average than both of them. He proved he is a very strong runner and is a good goal line back that really powers through and fights for the yardage. The only thing I would say he needs to work on is just his consistency. And when I say consistency, I don't mean being a good runner. I mean his consistency with being on the field. He seemed to run off a lot after he was put in because he needed a break. So maybe just work on his conditioning a little bit more. But honestly, other than that, he was very impressive, and I cannot wait to see more. Bill Belichick actually congratulated both him and Ralph Webb in the locker room after the game in front of everybody. Hill proved that he should be a go-to back when defenses are showing blitz, not to mention that he is also doing very well on special teams. Now, on to the losers. First off, I have cornerback Stefon Gilmore. Now, Gilmore played quite a bit of snaps in the first quarter of the game, but showed he was really having issues. Now, Stefon was said to be doing amazing in training camp and was shutting down anyone that was put up against him, but last night, he was just not into it. He was getting burnt, he was giving up every throw that came his way, and his press was just MIA. Now, it is just week 1 of preseason, so he can still work on things, but for a guy that was a standout every day in training camp, this is a very disappointing thing to hear, especially when you're going up against preseason players. Now, the second loser I have is cornerback J.C. Jackson. Jackson was yet another undrafted signing this offseason, but unlike the last two, this one had some issues. This offseason, Jackson was getting starting reps next to Stefon Gilmore and was making noise in camp, but last night he was giving up way too many catches, and his awareness just is having issues. Now, he did make a pretty good special teams play where he charged at the punt returner with his great speed and kind of tipped him over, which ended up getting the punt returner down, but he did actually miss the tackle, so even then, you gotta watch it. For a guy we heard a lot about, it was definitely disappointing. Now, the third loser I have is running back Mike Gillislee. Now, if there was any hope that I had left for Gillislee, it is officially gone. Now, he is in contract year of his 2-year contract and is set to make $1.9 million this season, and it will result in 0 dead money if cut, so the Pats should just trade him or cut him after preseason. And with the Redskins running back Darius Geis tearing his ACL and being out for the season, they could be a team that needs a running back and the Pats could possibly trade to. Now, Gillislee is getting every chance to succeed. He's getting lots of time in practice and reps, and got last night also. But honestly, yet again, he just could not do anything. Last night, he had 14 attempts with 43 yards with 3.1 average. Last season, he actually averaged 3.9, so he's already doing worse than he did last season. Ralph Webb actually had the same amount of attempts, and he actually ended up doing better than Gillislee did. I actually remember on one run play, the offensive lineman, I think it was Trent Brown, he created a hole for Gillislee that he could have ran through and picked up some really good yardage, and Gillislee ended up juking and goes straight through traffic. He ended up basically getting stopped for, I think, only a couple yards or no gain. It just seems like with Gillislee, there's no care anymore. I mean, you're playing against the Redskins' backup defense in preseason week 1. I mean, come on, man. His competition was Jeremy Hill, and Hill did way better and had 3 less attempts than he did. Now, the fourth and final loser I have is linebacker/safety Jordan Richards. At this point, he just needs to be cut. He can't keep up with running backs or receivers and is letting up way too many plays. He did have one really strong tackle last night, but it was assisted, so it wasn't too impressive. He also then left with an injury, which doesn't help his case. Well, guys, that is it for today's video. Make sure you guys let me know what you think about this series in the comments below. Make sure you guys leave me questions also for my Q&A. It can be my life related or it can be about football related. Make sure you guys like and subscribe as it helps me out very, very much. Make sure you share this video with everyone you know so we can grow the Patriots Global family. And other than that, I will catch you guys in another video. We'll give it a shot.